It's baffled scholars for 2 millennia. It is a puzzle made of multi-dimensional elements, an enigma with roots that reach back to the dawning of time, perhaps before. Daniel explained part of it. Ezekiel and Isaiah had glimpses into it. John saw it all for the time of the end. That time is now. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert on a journey that spans the course of history, from Eden to Mount Hermon, from Hermon to Babel, from Babel to Rome, from Rome to the cross, and from there to us. Biblical prophecy is coming true before your eyes, and to understand it, you must discern the times both then and now. It's time to unravel the threads of this all-encompassing prophetic paradox. It's time to unravel Revelation.
Welcome to Unraveling Revelation. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and welcome back to Studio G1 that will soon be in the barn. We'll tell you more about that after the break. But we are in Isaiah 14 and 10 and bouncing all over the place trying to figure out why Osiris? Why are we even talking about him?
And what is the connection to end times prophecy here? Isn't this all about history? Isn't this about the fall of Lucifer? Well, we've covered that in the archives, which you can get at our app. We highly recommend that you find it. Of course, you can find it at our website, unravelingrevelation.tv. But the app makes it really convenient. You've got it in the palm of your hand, whether it's iOS, Android, Amazon, Kindle Fire. You can also throw it up on TV because we've got Roku and Apple TV versions. It is free, and the company that produces it, maintains it for us, is a Christian company, meaning they will not cancel our stuff if we, because we're not likely to say something that will offend them.
We don't intentionally say anything like that. We try to be as gentle as possible. We think that's the way we should be anyway. But, you know, if the day ever comes, then, yeah, it's their playground.
Exactly.
I was just thinking about putting it up on the TV in giant versions of us. We've got a friend whose little boy likes to watch him on TV especially. So all day long, this poor friend of ours has to, Ollie, no.
But we love Oliver.
We love Oliver. Hello, Oliver. We love you so much. Thank you for sending us videos. But yeah, we recently met someone at a different place I can't remember. Oh, it was over at Skywatch, I think. But someone came up and he said, I've only ever seen you guys and you're like this big. Because he watches on his phone. So you're really tiny. I didn't know you were so tall, Derek. He's actually one of the shortest men at Skywatch.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They're all Nephil.
The Horn family.
They're all like 6'3" and over.
Joe's nephew is now taller than me. The last time we saw him, he was like here, and now he's...
I know. Yeah,
anyway,
I know they all shoot up
kids.
really tall. But that's okay.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love feeling like
anyway,
a
thank you
shrimp.
for joining us this week. We're going to dive back into Isaiah 14.
And to Isaiah and Osiris and all of that.
This chapter, Isaiah 14, is just so full of stuff, which is why we've been spending so many weeks on it. Again, it begins with a polemic against the king of Babylon, but as we pointed out, Melech Babel can mean king of Babel, not just Babylon, and Babel itself means God Gate. It was a term that was applied to many cities in the ancient Near East, including the capital of the Assyrians, Nineveh, which is how we got here in the first place. And Assyria, name of that in Hebrew is Assur, which was the name of the chief deity of the Assyrians, who was Enlil, who was El of the Canaanites, Molech to the Hebrews. And I'll put a slider here on the side so you can see all of the names going down the side, because it gets a little confusing when you try to keep up with all of this, but this is the entity we think that comes out at the end, Revelation 9, the king of the bottomless pit, Abaddon or Apollyon.
Yes, and right now we believe, at least I believe, that he's working. He's got his little minions that are sending messages, because we believe that the whore of Babylon, that I think is Inanna, that she is a post-flood entity who is sent down here. So she's on the earth. She's not under the earth. She's on the earth. Right.
And that's the key distinction here, is that this entity, Assur, Enlil, El, Molech, Dagon, is one of the watchers, the sons of God from Genesis 6, who, according to 2 Peter 2:4 and Jude verses 6 and 7, are currently chained up in the bottomless pit, in Tartarus, according to Peter. So they're basically not on the earth, but they've got little minions. And this is why we did our little side trip a couple of weeks ago into Ezekiel 32, verse 22, where we read that Assur is in the the Yarkate bore the far reaches of the pit, which I think, and again, we're out on a branch here alone. I've not seen any other scholars make this connection, but I think that phrase in Hebrew, Yarkate, which we also see in Isaiah 14:15, you are brought down to Sheol, to the far reaches of the pit.
Exactly.
You're as far from the center of Sheol where the chiefs of the Gibborim,
yes,
the giants of old, are.
Exactly. The demons can go back and forth. They're not all the way down there, but I think they do communicate with their dads.
I think so too, yes.
And
they're slipping messages back and forth through the bars and carrying
Big
out.
Daddy, Kronos,
Yep.
whatever you want to call him, the king of the underworld, he is sending his minions to communicate with the deities that are on the earth, including Inanna, whatever you want to call her, and he's using her.
Oh, I agree.
She's
completely
using
agree.
us, he's using her.
Yeah, there's a really interesting dynamic at work here. There was a scholar whose name I'm going to forget, sadly, but he wrote a history of the Mesopotamian deity called Enlil, which again is the Akkadian, Babylonian, Sumerian form of this entity, El, Molech, Dagon, Saturn, Kronos. And it appears that prior to his arrival in Mesopotamia, which came with the Akkadians in the 24th century BC, Sargon the Great, who conquered the known world at that time, brought the worship of Enlil with him. And that was when Enlil became the entity who conveyed kingship onto human rulers.
Yes.
Now, until this doctoral dissertation, it was assumed that he was always the one who conveyed kingship. In fact, the term in Sumerian became literally Enlil-ship. If you were a human ruler, Enlil-ship had been granted unto you by Enlil. But prior to that, according to this scholar, it was Inanna who conveyed kingship unto rulers.
Yes.
And so these Akkadians and their Amorite allies, who called Enlil El, they brought this idea into Sumer, and things changed. Now, Inanna, again, who is now active and still on the earth, had to give up this idea in the minds of the human followers to this entity who was locked up, chained up in gloomy darkness in Tartarus.
Oh, yeah. We've got so much to say about Inanna, and that will start next week. But this week, still staying with the Enlil, Kronos, whatever you want to call him, theme, Osiris kind of entity.
Right.
It's interesting that he's referred to in verse 20 of Isaiah 14. Now I'm reading the Septuagint. You want to read verse 20 in your version?
In the ESV, you will not be joined with them in burial. Well, let me back up to verse 18 here, because I think this is a reference to the kings, the mighty men who were of old. I think this is a reference to the Rephaim who we see earlier in Isaiah 14 in verse 9, where it says, rouses the shades to greet you. That's rouses the Rephaim.
Yeah, this whole
spirits
section
of the
is
Nephilim.
really important.
Yeah. And by the way, another rabbit trail here for just a moment. You go back a few weeks, you'll see this is why we don't believe that this Isaiah 14 or Ezekiel 28, the parallel chapter, refers to Satan, because Satan is not anywhere in the Bible connected to the netherworld. No. That's an idea that developed in the early Christian church.
He is not in chains in gloomy darkness.
That is correct. He's still roaming the earth like a lion seeking whom he may devour. But this entity, not so much. He is in the netherworld. And verse 18 of Isaiah 14, all the kings of the nations lie in glory, each in his own tomb or his own house. And again, this is a reference to the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown.
That are now demons.
Who are now demons, right. But you are cast out away from your grave like a loathed branch. And as we said last week, this is actually an Egyptian loanword, should read like a loathed dead god or god of the dead.
Septuagint says loathed carcass.
Yep. So branch, they understood. They understood that it was not the Hebrew word meaning branch.
Yes.
Clothed with the slain, those pierced by the sword, who go down to the stones of the pit like a dead body trampled underfoot. And again, that's a polemic to the Dagon aspect of this entity, whose epithet was Lord of the Corpse.
Right.
Verse 20, you will not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land, you have slain your people.
Oh, there's more in verse 20 in the Septuagint.
In the Septuagint?
Yes. As a garment defiled with blood shall not be pure, so neither shalt thou be pure, because thou hast destroyed my land and hast slain my people. Thou shalt not endure forever. thou an evil seed.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember in Genesis 3, the seed of the serpent.
Right, right. Oh, this really leads to the next couple of verses, which was really what we wanted to get into here this week. But the Lexham English Septuagint, which is a more modern Septuagint translation, reads, beginning at verse 19 again, but you will be thrown among the mountains.
That's what this says too.
Yeah, and mountains, remember, in the ancient world, deities. Like in the book of First Enoch, where he's taken to the netherworld and sees burning mountains and told these are the angels who sinned, who transgressed. You will be thrown among the mountains like a loathed corpse, along with many dead, stabbed by swords, going down into the netherworld. The way a blood-stained garment will not be clean, so neither will be you clean, for you destroyed my land and you killed my people. You will certainly not remain into eternity, evil seed.
Yeah, yes.
Wow.
Yes. Why is that not in the Masoretic text?
That's a really good question.
Calling him an evil seed, that's big.
And you will not remain into eternity.
Yes.
This is not just saying we're going to wipe out memory of you. That, although that's part of it.
It is part of it, but you don't get resurrected. In fact, you're not going to exist.
Yeah, you will cease to be. Now, in the context of the 7th century BC, when Isaiah was writing this, that had a certain meaning to the pagans around ancient Israel, because they believed that you had to summon your ancestors by name, keep their name in memory every month. Otherwise, they would just fade away into nothingness. They would cease to be.
Right.
Kind of see that story in the, that idea rather, in the Star Trek episode, Who Mourns for Adonai.
Yes, it's a wonderful episode.
Yeah.
You feel sorry for the God at the end. That's the whole point.
Yeah. The people don't worship us anymore. They don't believe in us anymore. So we just fade away because they sort of feed on worship.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the idea here. In the ancient world, if you didn't summon your ancestors and feed them with a ritual meal every month, keep them in memory,
it was believed they didn't exist. But the fact is they still did.
Yeah. Yeah.
They lie.
These were demons.
They lie.
Yeah.
But keep reading.
But that's why we find in 2 Samuel 18:18, and we just covered this in our weekly Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, which is available on our app, the note that Absalom, son of David, had erected a pillar to himself, a memorial to himself.
Absalom's hand,
and that's a
euphemism.
Yeah, ancient Hebrew euphemism.
It's shaped like the Washington Monument.
Yeah. For he had no son to keep his name in remembrance.
Yeah.
So that's the idea here.
But it's also an idea of seed. When you've got a pillar like that, and it's called that, because they wouldn't have called it that if it didn't look like that.
Exactly. Well, because the next stuff is really gets into good stuff. Let's break here, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about why this is so important, this idea of wiping out all remembrance, because we're going to go back to Isaiah 26 after that. Man, this is good stuff, and this is really laying the groundwork for the discussion of Mystery Babylon. Yeah. Straight ahead on Unraveling Revelation.
Hey, guess what month it is? And that's why maybe we're wearing red, white, and blue.
It's July.
It's July, which means not only that, the United States celebrates Independence Day, but also anniversary of something big.
Yes, the 1947 Roswell crash, which occurred over 4th of July weekend.
It did. In fact, in 2017, you and I and Josh Peck all went to Roswell to see exactly what happened and get some expert interviews. And then you wrote a book.
Yes, Josh and I wrote the book, The Day the Earth Stands Still, about the phenomenon, because for many people, the UFO phenomenon is not about figuring out how we can travel to the stars. It is really a religion, answering the big questions of life. Why are we here? Exactly. Where did we come from? What happens when we die?
And it is back in the news. So that is the main reason we've decided to bring back a special from last summer. If you get this book, and you will get these two practically free.
Yes.
Because the whole package, you're going to save $30.
Yes.
It's only $35 for all three. You get the book, the 2 Sci-Friday crazy.
Best of deals is 14 hours of video on the between the two Best of Sci-Friday. And we do address the UFO phenomenon on some of these episodes. $35 plus shipping and handling, available now only at our store online, gilberthouse.org/store. Welcome back to Unraveling Revelation. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and as you watch this, we are in Ohio.
That is correct. Yeah,
we
or
are
just
indeed.
returned
Unless,
from Ohio.
of course, you're watching this in the archives, in which case I don't know where we are.
We've time shifted.
We've lost
jumped
ourselves
through
we
time.
Probably have. But we you can find out if we're going to go anywhere. Just go to the calendar. It's part of the app. And not only does the calendar tell you where we're going to be, shows you, when we're going to be there, it also has a little map that you can actually use to find us.
Right. So if you are looking for where we are going to be in any given, upcoming conference or speaking engagement or some such, you'll find it there, one of the tabs on our app. It's right next to the little Bible module, which is really awesome. Multiple translations.
So
you can actually have it speak to you. We can't say enough good things about Subsplash, the company that's developed the app.
And they've developed the wonderful capability for us to have a conversation with you. So there's a little conversation bubble. You'll see two little, like cartoon bubbles at the top. Click on that and you will see all of the various rooms that you can go into and converse with other people who are watching this show just like you.
And prayer requests. And that has really become the most active section on the messaging feature on the app, and we're really happy about that.
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be. So, well, back into Isaiah. Boy, this is chock full of stuff.
Right. So Isaiah 14, I'll begin at verse 20 again. You will not be joined with them in burial because you have destroyed your land. You have slain your people. Now here we get back to this idea we discussed before the break. May the offspring of evildoers never more be named.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This idea that we're going to forget you and you will cease to exist, or at least that's what the pagans believed. May the offspring of evildoers never more be named. Prepare slaughter for his sons because of the guilt of their fathers, lest they rise and possess the earth and fill the face of the world with cities.
Okay,
now,
that's odd.
Unpacking that.
Okay, but don't forget that in verse 20 in the Septuagint, there is an added clause. So we highly recommend that you take a look at the Septuagint. It's free. You can go to BibleHub.com and you can read just about any translation there, including the English translation, the free one, the Brenton one, which is the older one. But you can get the Lexham how?
The Lexham is available from faithlife.com. They have it there. You can also find it at Amazon. We'll have a copy of it as well.
Yeah.
And again, it's just the same text. It's just a more modern English translation, so a little easier to read.
Really, but I don't read Greek, so I need to actually see an English translation.
The value, again, is that it helps us to understand what Jewish religious scholars in the centuries before Jesus' birth understood about the Old Testament. And clearly, again, they understand it's not a loathed branch, it's a loathed corpse or loathed divinized corpse or dead god.
Seed.
Right. And will not go into eternity, I think is amazing. You will not remain into eternity. So the offspring of evildoers never more be named. We're going to forget them. They're going to cease to exist. Prepare slaughter for his sons. I think this is a reference to the children created by the rebellion of Shemihazah. Again, the original name of this entity, we think.
Well, I agree. If you look at the Septuagint, it's pretty clear. Prepare thy children. It's just talking about
talking to this entity, right. Prepare slaughter for your sons or his sons because of the guilt of their fathers. And that word fathers is that word we've been talking about, avoth. It's the same matrix of ideas, the spirits of the deceased ancestors.
Yeah, the fallen angels that created these hybrids.
Right. Lest they rise and possess the earth. And earth there is Eretz.
Here's what I like about the Septuagint here. That they arise not and inherit the earth. That's our inheritance. The fallen realm created these entities to find somebody, one of them that was just human enough to take that throne. That's who the Antichrist is.
That's a better translation. And actually the Hebrew word yaratz means to gain the possessions of an inheritance or be an heir. That's wow.
Big. And again, we'll recommend Timothy Alberino's book, Birthright. It is really good. Gets into this whole idea that Adam, he threw away his inheritance like it was a bowl of beans.
Yes.
And the enemy took it over. Satan now rules this earth. But no one can sit on the throne in Jerusalem who is not at least mostly human. All human is best.
Right, which is why Jesus had to be 100%.
All human.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, that's...
So they're going to try to slip in a ringer here.
That is a good catch. Inherit the earth, because, again, that's what that word in Hebrew means. It means to dispossess us of our birthright
Right.
and displace us, which is the whole point of creating the Nephilim in the first place, was
Yes.
to take possession, dominion of the earth away from the children of Adam and Eve.
Exactly. And the other bad part of this is that they want to fill the earth with cities.
Yeah.
But
The word in Hebrew, Irim, is identical to the word for watchers, which is that
the
class of
Amorite
angels.
version, is it Amorite? No,
Aramaic.
the Aramaic, sorry. The Aramaic word for watchers is
Right.
Irin.
And in Hebrew,
Same
that would
word.
be Irim. It's the same word, just the difference is in Aramaic plural is in instead of im.
And I've read it has to do with a city having a watchtower, but I think it's to be a city, you had to have a god gate. To have a god gate, you had to have a god. And those gods tended to be these watchers.
Yeah, the Hebrew word, one of the alternate interpretations, and you have to be careful about defining words by Strong's, which it's a wonderful
good starting
tool,
place.
but you
It's
can't pick the definition
no.
that you want. But one of the translations, and it does give you a sense of what the word means in its broader
Yeah.
context. Besides meaning city, town, village, population center, it can also mean inner shrine, an inner room in a temple complex.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. But here it's translated cities because most translators, not understanding the concept of the Rephaim and
Right.
the fact that this cult of the dead,
Right.
the demons, was around ancient Israel, weren't looking at the supernatural aspect of this. But as you say, this is exactly the same word translated watchers in Daniel chapter 4, the dream of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yes. In the Septuagint, it doesn't say fill the earth with cities or doesn't say watchers. It says wars. But I think that goes along with it. If you have all of these entities returning, which we do see in the book of Revelation, because it talks about the abyss opening up. And suddenly these demons have, are participating in a war along with their daddies.
Yeah. This, I think, makes more sense in the context of this entire chapter where you've got this entity who is cast out of, away from God, thrown down to the uttermost parts of the pit, like we see Assur in Ezekiel 32, in Ezekiel 28, we see, cast out of Eden. I think it's because here in verses 20 and 21, it's because of the guilt of their fathers. These sons that are referred to here are the Rephaim, the Nephilim, the spirits of the Nephilim, demons, because they don't want them to rise and inherit the earth or dispossess us from the earth and fill the face of the world with watchers, which, as Mike Heiser has pointed out, because these hybrid entities had spirit that was half divine, half human, they were half watcher. And sometimes in the book of Enoch and other Second Temple literature, Jewish literature, these hybrid spirits were referred to as watchers because that was the divine half of their spirits.
And that was the half that they identified with.
Yeah. They believed that they were somehow entitled to this. Now, going back to Ezekiel, let me do Numbers chapter 24 as well, because that's another place where we
numbers,
see.
are we?
Yeah, Numbers 24 is where we see the prophecy of Balaam, the prophet for profit, who had taken up several oracles against Israel, could not curse Israel as the king of Moab wanted, but he prophesied, Numbers 24, beginning at verse 17, a messianic prophecy. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. Okay, that's the Messiah. It shall crush the forehead of Moab and break down all the sons of Sheth. And I've gone into some detail.
Tell me where you are again.
Numbers 24:17.
Sorry, I'm looking up stuff.
And I have written elsewhere. 24:17. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And the sons of Sheth, the Shazu or the Shutu, according to the Egyptians, were the Suteans, whose name changed around the time of Abraham to Sutean from the Tadanu, the Titans.
Right.
In other words, the sons of the Titans here. Now, again, this is another theological branch we're out on alone, but I think it fits. And verse 19 is where we see this city's watchers switch, perhaps. And one from Jacob shall exercise dominion and destroy the survivors of Irim. The survivors of the watchers, I believe, is the actual.
I think that makes more sense than those that escaped from the city.
That does make more sense in that context.
In that
You can't
context.
make the switch with the word city to watcher every time. You just have to look at context. But it is interesting that you've got that idea, the watcher on the wall overlooking the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when we get to Isaiah 26, I think we see these ideas kind of stitched together. Isaiah 26, beginning at verse 13. O Yahweh our God, other lords besides you have ruled over us, but your name alone we bring to remembrance. Again, this idea that all these other names we're going to forget, they're going to cease to exist. At least that's the fear of the pagans. They are dead, they will not live. They are, in Hebrew, it's Rephaim. Mm-hmm. They are Rephaim, they will not arise. To that end, you have visited them with destruction and wiped out all remembrance of them. Again, this idea that if they're forgotten, they cease to be. Now, Isaiah was smart enough to know, and under the influence of the Holy Spirit, that's not quite how it worked, but...
Did you read 14 and 15, or just...
Just 14, because I want to skip down to verse 19.
Well, 15 is important.
But you have increased the nation, O Yahweh. You have increased the nation. You are glorified. You have enlarged all the borders of the land.
That's Isaiah 26, verse 15?
Yeah.
Boy, it's different in the Septuagint once again. 14. But the dead shall not see life, neither shall Rephaim. It's called physicians, but it's actually Rephaim is the original word. By any means raise them up. The Rephaim shall not raise them up.
Right.
Therefore, thou hast brought wrath upon them and slain them, and hast taken away every male of them. Bring more evils upon them, O Lord. Bring more evils on the glorious ones of the earth.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, you don't bring evil on Christians, on the body of Christ. You don't bring evil on those that trust in Yahweh. So these glorious ones are not good people. They're not good entities. They are enemies.
And again, another change between the Masoretic and the, or rather the Septuagint and the Masoretic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But very quickly, I'm going to get to verse 19 to sort of put a bow on this.
Time again.
Yeah. Your dead, and this is Isaiah prophesying a future resurrection. Your dead shall live, their bodies shall rise. This is the faithful in God. You who dwell in the dust, awake and sing for joy, for your dew is a dew of light. Now, the ESV reads this, and the earth will give birth to the dead. The verb translated give birth is nafal, ironically, which means to fall.
It's correct in the Septuagint.
The Septuagint says the land of the ungodly shall perish. The Masoretic should probably read this: the land of the Rephaim shall fall, because the dead there is translated Rephaim, and that would contradict verses 13 and 14 above. They are dead, they will not live. They are Rephaim, they will not arise.
Exactly. It's a wonderful, wonderful promise.
Yes. And the land of the Rephaim, the land of the underworld, land of the ungodly, according to scholars, probably refers to Tartarus. So this is a prophecy not just of the destruction of these Rephaim, the demons, but also their progenitors, the rebellious watchers.
Hallelujah. Next week we talk about the destruction of Babylon, whore of.
Or at least we start it.
Yeah,
Don't miss it.
It'll probably take us a few weeks.
Unraveling Revelation is a viewer-supported outreach of Gilbert House Ministries. Follow us online at unravelingrevelation.tv and gilberthouse.org.